Tracking a meteor shower this week and more snow for the Sierra. I'm ABC 10 Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods in Northern California, Sacramento. We still have a flood watch in effect for parts of the Sierra because of that historic snow that we've seen over the course of our water year. So snow melt is happening, allowing for some rises on some creeks and streams, as well as some low water crossings. That's been happening, especially with the warmth that's been basically building in throughout Northern California. This is the time of year we start to see more in the way of snow melt than snowfall. Now that is going to shift over tonight and early tomorrow as we start tracking a weather system. In the meantime, we've been seeing anywhere from about 1 to 4 inches of snow melt a day. It has been as high as about 6 inches in some areas, but that's obviously going to lead to some higher river flows and also very cold and fast water. That will all continue to press its way down into the valley. A lot of water officials are saying just stay off any body of water for right now, and even into the early summer season, just because everything is going to be moving so fast and cold. Some of those snowfall totals this season are quite impressive. Carson Pass, over 800 inches of snow. Sugar Bowl, over 770 inches of snow. Over 700 for Mammoth and Kirkwood. Palisades, Tahoe, they'll be skiing through July 4th. 700 inches of snow, and we've seen equal amounts of impressive rainfall. Snowfall's really been the big story for us here in Northern California and all throughout the central and southern parts of the Sierra as well because of the extremely high numbers. In fact, it's been historic. That's not necessarily the case for rainfall. We're running slightly below our 2016-2017 year. That's going to be our wettest year on record for Sacramento. But you can see we're more in line of that 2018-2019. But all of this coming after 3 years of historic drought. Not only was it extremely dry, it was extremely warm. So all of this rainfall and snowfall was certainly a welcome sight. In fact, when you take a look at the two past water years combined, we are exactly 1 inch ahead of those 2 years combined in just 1 year alone. That just shows you the variability that California has. We can go from years with 60 inches of precipitation and then have virtually nothing the next year. That's why we have to capture everything we can when we've got it. As far as our statewide numbers, also looking great north to south. This isn't just a Northern California situation, although our biggest reservoirs are in the northern part of the state. So we certainly want to see those bigger gains in the northern part of the state so we have that water through the dry part of the year. Southern California, the only outlier there is going to be Palm Springs. Everything else is going to be well above average. And we're starting to close in on the time of year that we see those numbers start to go down with our rainfall coming in. That being true as well for the snowfall. Instead, it is snow melt like we've been talking about. And so our reservoirs are starting to come up. This is very typical. This is what water managers have to deal with, especially for flood operations when we start to see that epic snowpack start to melt and come down the hill. We're seeing these capacities grow here. For Shasta, that's our biggest reservoir in the state. We're at 92% of capacity. Oroville, 88. Folsom, it's a smaller one, but feeds a large part of the metropolitan area for Sacramento. So we like to keep an eye on that one. It's a big recreation spot as well. 73% full right now. New Melones at 60 and Don Pedro at 81%, which is starting to come down a bit. Unfortunately, for the central San Joaquin Valley and parts of the central area of the state, we have a higher flood risk. That's just because of the channels that come out from some of those reservoirs are very narrow, and it's hard to get a lot of water through there. So we're having to release a little bit more water instead of keep it for the dry season. We're still in that moderate to minor risk throughout the state for our spring flood outlook, but we have a couple of rivers that we've been keeping an eye on. 3 in particular, 2 of them are going to be over towards Nevada. 1 is going to be in California. Everything else is going to be monitor or normal flow, but the monitor and flood stage are going to be the San Joaquin, Tuolumne, and Merced. So those are all going to be, like I said, right through the northern San Joaquin valleys, parts of the central part of the state as well. The central and southern Sierra had huge numbers for our snow. And so we're starting to see those higher river flows. They are peaking a little bit earlier in the season for the Sacramento and Feather River. So the river head on this for the Sacramento River, the reservoir is going to be Shasta. Feather is going to be Oroville. American is Folsom. And we're looking at that river flow to be peaking in May. For the San Joaquin and Kings, though, that's going to be deeper into the season. So we're going to be talking about flooding all the way through our late spring and even into our early summer. Again, going back to why we need to be careful on all of the waterways deep into our spring and early summer. Now, precipitation, like I said, is going to be starting to drop off here as we head into April and certainly into May. Conversely, we start to see those temperatures go up, thus more snow melt, higher river flows, and it's everything that we continue to watch as we dig deeper into the spring. By the time we get to May, our average temperature jumps up to about 80 degrees in Sacramento. Of course, we don't have the snow down here. We have it up in the high country, but that just gives you a relative base of what we're looking at. In terms of the weather forecast, again, we have an incoming weather system and an upcoming meteor shower this week. We've got a developing low out in the Pacific. This is really pulling in a lot of cold air, much colder than what we usually see this time of year. So a winter weather advisory is in place Monday afternoon. That's going to take us all the way through Tuesday morning. Snow down to about 4,500 feet. These are areas that we're just starting to see some of that snow melting, with about 3 to 8 inches of new snow and travel delays returning. Got to keep those chains and winter travel gear ready, traveling up into the Sierra. The main impacts from this incoming system is going to be the colder air, about 5 to 10 degrees colder. Showers with the biggest impact, above 4,500 feet. Really not going to see a whole lot for the valley. And wind, Monday afternoon through Tuesday morning, occasional gusts, especially over the ridges, anywhere from about 60 to 75 miles per hour. You see the timeline here. We'll see occasional cloud cover ripple on through for Monday. The main impacts with our rain is going to be on the east side of the valley, through the foothills, and then up into the Sierra. And that will continue Tuesday morning through Tuesday afternoon. It will start to taper off slightly during the day, but pick back up during the afternoon. So we're not completely done until overnight Tuesday through early Wednesday. Our rainfall, like I mentioned, not going to be much. We'll see less than 1/10 of an inch for Sacramento. Slightly higher totals north of I-80, Grass Valley, about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch of rain. And then as we head into the Sierra, a much different story. We're going to see about 3 to 12 inches of snow for the Sierra. Most of that is going to be along I-80, and then north of I-80, Lassen, 18 to 24 inches of snow. Some travel delays, slick roads, and possible chain controls back in the forecast as we head into this beginning of the work week. As far as our atmospheric rivers, they're really starting to taper off. So we're not seeing a whole lot in the extended forecast, which is good news. And the reason why I stopped this on Saturday, April 22nd, is because that's right about the time that we are going to get the peak of our Lyrid Meteor Shower. This is going to be great here. We're going to have the overnight hours between April 21st and the 23rd, with our peak anywhere from about midnight until dawn, with 10 to 20 meteors per hour. Now, you still have the possibility of seeing any of that happening this week, but that's just going to happen to be the peak, which is good news, too, because we're going to be right around the time of the new moon, meaning the skies are going to be super dark and great viewing with very little in the way of cloud cover coming our way. The way that things are shaping up right now should be some decent viewing for that Lyrid Meteor Shower. It happens to be the second biggest one that we see on Earth here. So the Lyrid Meteor Shower, well, it appears from the constellation Lyra. It's space debris from Comet Thatcher, which was discovered in 1861. Each April, Earth passes through that debris. I know a lot of people like to capture pictures of these meteors, and it's really hard to do sometimes. Some of the key factors that you want to keep in mind: get away from city lights, and obviously you don't need to worry too much about the moon phase because it is going to be right around the time of the new moon. Let your eyes adjust for 30 minutes. Because of coming in from perhaps some lighter situations, your eyes need to adjust just to be able to take in some of the night sky. Use a tripod and a wide angle lens. That will give you the opportunity to keep things very stable and also get the biggest view that you can. Use this shutter release or a built-in timer for your camera, again, reducing kind of the shaking that you might get even when you're pressing the camera or even on your phone pressing the shutter. Manually focus the lens. Because it is a dark sky, you want to be able to make sure that you're focusing on the right part of the sky. It's going to be really hard for that lens sometimes to adjust to the right place that you want to focus in on. And then aim in areas of the radiant. That's going to be the point at which that meteor shower radiates from. So you want to kind of give yourself some time, enjoy the show, and make sure you know where that focus is. And it will shift because the Earth continues to rotate. So you're going to have to keep adjusting as you deal with basically the elements of the Earth's rotation. Again, we will see those clear skies. Should be beautiful evening forecast as well. If you're headed up to the foothills or perhaps a little bit higher up into the Sierra, a little bit of high cloudiness. Just be aware that it is going to be cool overnight. But other than that, warming conditions into the weekend forecast after we get through a chilly start to the week.